Hi, and welcome to episode 21 of Stuttering, Demystified, and Beyond. This is part two of our very important interview with my daughter and college student, Leah Fradkin, who is going to continue talking about her journey with ADHD and dyslexia. And if you didn't watch part one, not watch. If you didn't listen to part one, please listen because it's amazing, and I really find her a gift. So I want to continue because when we finished part one, you were saying that when you were at after being away at Albany and you came back and you went to community college, because I think what I want to also reiterate is that I think you finally learned that you didn't have to learn in a traditional manner. You didn't have to finish school in a certain amount of time. You didn't have to take a certain amount of classes. So maybe you can explain that even more.
So I don't even know if I realized at the time that I needed to learn differently. I just knew I needed to succeed at school because, I didn't want to work at a minimum wage job and not be able to support myself. So, and this was the first time that the consequences, I couldn't get out of it. And I really had to do the work myself. So as I was saying, I started taking, I think actually at first I did take a semester. I didn't do well. It took me a couple classes to really form a good relationship with school. That was also part of the problem. I had such a negative experience with school that I didn't even want to be in my classes. So I think my parents were like, listen, you have to pay for this. It came out of my own money. So that made me more serious about school and about my future career. And I started just taking classes in all different areas to find out what I liked. I ended up taking a communications class, which I loved. And in those communication classes, I found out about public relations, which is what my major is at Hofstra. So it really was about forming a good relationship with school again. I think that was the first step, and associating doing well with school. Because once I found a topic that I liked, I was super interested. Homework wasn't as hard because I liked the topics I was learning. From that, I started getting good grades. And I remember the first semester I got straight A's and was on the dean's list. And that was the first time I saw my potential on paper. Because everyone always told me I was smart, and not say that I'm so smart, but I wanted to see the proof on the paper. Basically just so no one can challenge me and tell me that I'm lazy or stupid or whatever. So once I made the dean's list, that really set me off on this just journey of just doing everything I can to make my life easier and to help me succeed. I downloaded Speechify to make reading easier on the computer. So it's a app that you can get on your computer that reads aloud to you. I have reminders on my phone. I have a physical calendar in my room. I have a whiteboard to remind me of stuff. I also have my syllabus. And I realized as I'm doing all these things, it makes my life a lot easier and school a lot easier. Because I think growing up, I was so anti-school and I was a little angsty teen. But I realized the more extra things, the more support I found for myself that really fit me. Not just resources thrown at me, but specific things that helped me succeed in school. That's really helped me go on my journey. And I ended up graduating Nassau with an associate's degree, 3.8 GPA. I got into NYU with in their scholarship program.
Which is rare.
Yeah.
Which is rare.
Which was very surprising to me. And I remember opening up and crying because I never thought that would be me. I thought that was more my sister who succeeded so well in school. And I also got into the PR program at Hofstra, and I got a scholarship at Hofstra. And NYU was the dream, but it was kind of hard. We live on Long Island with commuting, so I ended up going to Hofstra, and now I'm just like a bulldozer. Like, I'm really doing everything possible for me to be successful. I worked so hard to be where I am. I have a 4.0 GPA in public relations at Hofstra University. I work as a public relations specialist for my mom. I've had internships, and now finally I can put my intelligence on paper, and other people can look at my grades and see how intelligent I am, and it just feels really good to have all my feelings finally validated. But like, once you have that positive association with school and you really figure out how to use your ADHD to your advantage, like I always say, my dyslexia, your brain is wired differently, and it always helps me think out of the box. So I'm in PR, which you do campaigns. So I'm always the first one raising their hand to come up with ideas for campaigns, because I can think of out of the box ideas that are different and new. And I really think what was labeled as my disabilities when I was younger makes me so creative and successful in my future career and in my classes that are also creative classes. I use that all to my advantage, and my teachers notice it. So it's really not, I mean, I worked so hard to be where I am. It definitely takes hard work, and you need to believe in yourself. It took me a while. I didn't get to Hofstra until I was 23. And by the time I graduate, I'll be 25. So some people, slow and steady, but I am so proud of myself of where I actually proved the potential that everyone was telling me that I had. And I just want other kids out there to know that just because you feel so alone in the school system, or you feel weird or different, that what actually sets you apart makes you special in a good way. And you think differently, and you don't think like everyone else. Your ideas are different. You're probably creative and into music, and just really find what interests you. And I'm telling you, you'll succeed.
Those words are amazing. And I think what you said is so important. No matter how much everybody else says that you have a lot of potential, you're very wise, you're very smart, you're very well spoken. If you don't believe it within you, it doesn't really matter. And obviously doing well in school matters, but I remember the first time, I think it might have been at Nassau, maybe Nassau, you came home from school and you were excited about learning, and your father and I looked at each other and we were like, oh my God. I mean, I think it was actually a history class, maybe, I don't remember, but you were just so interested and like happy, and you were sharing what you learned, and it was amazing to us because, obviously as parents, our main goal is for you to be happy. And we started to see it slowly evolve. Do you think if you would have understood ADHD early on, it would have helped?
It's kind of hard. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to say, but I think it would, because with ADHD, when you don't understand what's going on in your brain, there's just so much frustration and anger. There's so many things going on when you're a teenager. So I don't know if that would have helped the problem completely. I mean, I'm happy what I went through. It made me who I am, and I just feel like right now I'm unstoppable because I can get through anything. And I really molded how I study for school and my system of how I remember things when things are due like it's bulletproof. I have like every anything that can go wrong, I have a plan for ahead of time. So I don't know if it would have helped me. I'm just happy I went through it and I became the person who I am today.
And I mean, I'm sure this is helping a lot. Actually, it's really helping me because I'm like really hearing it and we're sort of going over it. I just want to ask you, I remember you mentioned that you would always have problems starting, like initiating a task. Is that a problem now?
Yeah, it's still always a problem. So my kind of process is, I know like a lot of people who discourage their kids watching TV while they're doing homework, but for me, it's like the ADHD brain. I need some noise in the background. So I'll put on my favorite show or my favorite YouTuber, and I'll just open up my computer and start with the heading. I'll just write Leah, and then I'll write my professor's name, and then I'll start with the introduction, and then I'll start with the first paragraph, and before you know it, you're halfway done with the paper. So, and then I make sure to take breaks. I do not wait till last minute to do projects, just because, and it's hard because a lot of people with ADHD procrastinate, but I just went through it for so many years, and it's such a terrible feeling the night before, like finishing a 10-page paper. I don't want to experience that feeling ever again. So really just like starting things early, looking at a full calendar to see what you have ahead, so all the information is out there on the paper. Yeah, I mean, starting tasks is always hard. I mean, I still have a messy room, but
Me too.
yeah. But I think there's definitely ways around it to help yourself. Just really taking one step at a time. I'll be surprised. I'll finish a whole paper in a day just because I did take it one step at a time.
And I think the fact that you're being so open and honest and courageous will really help others, because we don't learn unless we hear from others who have been through the experiences. And what advice can you give? Because it was kind of hard for us. Like, I mean, there was at one point when we kept asking about homework, and it just wasn't worth arguing over, because no matter what we said, I realize now you just hated it and you hated school, and it was hard for you to hand things in. I remember trying to ask a teacher in high school that, is there any way that you could, I don't know, email or maybe like put it in the mailbox because you were embarrassed to hand it in late? And they would always tell me, no, 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 no. So you finally said, if they're not going to, if there is no way of me not being embarrassed, I'm not doing it. And then I finally had to say, I can't keep asking the same thing over and over, because it was causing anger and it was causing too many arguments at home. So is there any advice you can give when a parent sees, especially in high school, if they see them like, really not handing in things, not finishing homework, not able to, even emotionally regulate, is there any advice you can give them?
I think I know it's hard, but just not focusing so much on the school part, and really sit your kid down and ask them what's going on inside their head. Because if someone did that for me and stopped pushing me to do homework and just asked me what's going on, I probably would have ended up doing the homework. Because I feel like people cared more about the grades than my mental health. So really just my advice is just to remember your kid's a kid. They're a teenager, they're in elementary school. Take them out for ice cream or something happy, and just really try to figure out what's wrong and then take steps from there.
And there was one thing that Leah and I would do that was like really, really happy. I don't know if You remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
What is it?
We go on the border and eat
Yeah.
nachos. Yeah.
Yes. And if I look back now, I wish we would have eaten, even though it's not healthy, I really honestly wish that we would have eaten nachos every night. And we're big Yankee fans. And I sort of learned, like, okay, if I'm going to ask Leah about homework, instead of asking her about homework, we're going to talk about the Yankees. But I really wish, looking back, because you were on the competitive dance team and you loved it, and I really wish that, I mean, I'm like, happy how things turned out now, but I really wish we would have spent more time just laughing, honestly. No matter what happens in high school, college would have happened anyway.
I think people need to like remember like life's not that serious, honestly. Like it's homework. I think we all get so involved with grades, but like if you think about it from a broader spectrum, my family looking back, we all definitely wish we had less fights about school and homework. It just doesn't matter in the greater scheme of things. But it's hard to realize that in the moment.
It is hard to realize that. And then, Leah is, she isn't just my social media person.
I'm your public relations
I'm
specialist.
sorry.
Yeah.
She's my public relations specialist. And when it started out, I was like, all right, she'll kind of help me out. And then all of a sudden I started realizing, wait a minute. This is someone who can really market. She can market my business. She comes up with things that are very out of the box. She's well spoken. So all of a sudden her strengths started coming out. And I just think, like Leah said, I mean, obviously we've had major things happen in life the last few years. And we sort of have to realize, and my father would always say this also, school or an exam or something, it's just one moment in time. It will pass, and probably as we all look back to our high school years or younger years, we realize that we got ourselves very, anxious over things that eventually worked out. And I myself work with a lot of teenagers and young adults, and I see a tremendous amount of anxiety. I see a tremendous amount, worried about every single test, a tremendous amount of homework. And we really have to watch mental health. Mental health is number one. Everything else can come later on. So I really, Leah, as your mother, it is just without words, so inspiring, so heartwarming, to have you on. You have, and for many of you who do not know this, I was a university adjunct professor. Leah spoke. She has spoken actually at public speaking events on ADHD and dyslexia. She really is a motivational and inspiring person. She is my daughter. So, as a mom, and both of my daughters are. But I think to say that your daughter makes you proud, and it makes you a proud mother is, I don't know, there isn't anything more I can add. So, thank you so much for being on.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you want more information on coaching or speech therapy, please, it's www.allislandspeech.com, or you can contact me at Lori, Lori, at allislandspeech.com. Bye-bye.